Hello, welcome. So we're going to be talking about Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life book club review. So we went into depth of chapters 1 through 4 for book club. And if you've been following on social media and reading along, we've been doing short little clips to talk about each of the chapters each week. And so now this is just kind of like a recap, quick deep dive into this book. So this is one of the absolute best books, I think, for a healing journey. So if you've just started a healing journey or you're needing a refresh on a healing journey, this is definitely my first go-to book. This is a book that I reference a lot as a healer and a coach because of its deep, awesome wisdom and really beautiful way that this book is organized. So I'm not going to be going into depth about chapters 1 through 4 since we've already covered that. I'm really just going to be talking about the rest of the book. So in chapter 5, it's all about the willingness to change. And I think oftentimes, this is the most important step in a healing journey, is being willing to change. And, we might think we want to change, but then in reality, we're not actually willing to make any changes. We want everything to stay the same and just the things that we want to change. And this chapter really talks about choosing to see your patterns, choosing to see your cycles, and making decisions from there to change and seeing where there's resistance to wanting to change. And I'm going to look at my notes just because I don't want to miss anything. So, every time you release an old layer of wanting to change, things are actually changing. So I loved that chapter. And then noticing in chapter 6, the resistance to change. So where is there resistance to change? You might be willing, and you might even take actions to change, but then you're noticing all this resistance and it's like you have to fight every day against yourself to be able to make the change. So fear is one of the things that comes up. Denial, delay, all of these things kind of show up as resistance to change. So your beliefs, assumptions, all work on your resistance to change. Jealousy or self-criticizing can also come in as resistance to change. So that's just my timer. I'm so sorry for this loud beep in the middle of this YouTube video. I'm still trying to be pretty chill on YouTube, I gotta be honest. I watch all these videos where everybody's all buttoned up and perfect and got the perfect music and all this kind of thing. And I aspire to be like that someday. But for right now, we've got multiple things going on at once. I'm taking the time to film this. And so there's going to be some weird things that happen in the middle of our filming, maybe, because that's real life. So in chapter 6, she talks about how to actually combat this resistance to change. And a great way to do this is through mirror work. Looking in your eyes and saying out loud something really nice about yourself, like I'm willing to change, and noticing the feelings that arise there. And that really unraveling any programs that we've accepted. In chapter 7, she actually talks about how to change. So nurturing the willingness to let go, releasing the need to be in control, and that, knowing that sometimes when we're making these changes that things can get worse before they get better. And that your mind is a tool and that you are in charge of it. It's not in charge of you. And how often do we feel like our minds are in control of us and that we're just slaves to whatever it wants to do, but really in reality, we're the ones who get to choose and get to control our minds. So this is something that takes practice and willpower. And she, talks about that sometimes we think it's more about willpower, but actually it's really more about practice. And that we can choose to believe that it's becoming easier for ourselves. And we can say that over and over again, this is easier every single day. And she touches on the fact that forgiveness is really the cure-all for everything. Forgiveness. And so I would just insert my own little wisdom here of saying that, the Ho'oponopono prayer is really great for forgiveness if you don't even know where to start with that. But read this book, and she gives some great examples as well. So in chapter 8, she talks about building anew. So you're nourishing yourself as a holistic being, body, mind, spirit, and where you put your attention is where things are going to grow in your life. And the more you dwell on what you don't want, the more you're going to get that. So putting positive attention out into the world, more positive attention into what you want in your life, and thinking positive affirmations. And having loving acceptance, self-approval, self-acceptance is so important of this, and loving yourself is just one of the most important components that is possible here. So, and loving and approving yourself exactly as you are. So when you're making changes, we so often can get kind of caught up, I think, in like, oh, I need to be this way, and I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need to be this, and I need to be that. But we don't love ourselves in the moment of where we are currently. And so this is a really great chapter that talks all about that. And instead of, if you think about all the things that are wrong with you, turn them into positive affirmations and see all the things that change from there. So for some reason, I don't see chapters 9, 10, 11, 12. So do forgive me. Hold that thought. Let's go find them. Okay, so now my notes are going to be on the computer. So chapter 9 is about doing the daily work, and that you have to support yourself in showing up for yourself every single day and reinforce that you're learning something new. And this can be kind of tricky, right? Like, it's so easy for us to just be like, oh, this is too hard. Oh, this is taking too much time. I can't do this. And instead, being consistent and showing up every day for yourself is actually how these big changes in healing your life can happen. So you can do this by expressing gratitude, doing your affirmations, meditating, exercising, eating well, taking time to visualize and study and learn. And the daily work is, showing up and telling yourself you love yourself every day and starting your day on a good note, making the time to do these types of things. In chapter 10, she talks about relationships and how we have relationships with really everything in our life, not just with, there's the relationship with ourselves, but then there's the relationship with others, and how sometimes we can project our feelings onto other people and want them to be the ones that change instead of ourselves, and how to move through this and how to send love to those types of situations and those types of relationships, and how that we have to be willing to love ourselves first if we want to have love in other relationships. Then she talks in chapter 11 about work specifically. So in work, she talks about the fact that, there could be a job that you have that you hate. And instead of, talking about how much you hate your job, start affirming that you're willing to release this job and to get a job that's more in alignment so that someone else can have this job that's in alignment with them. So the job that you have now, someone else in the world would love to have. And so if we willingly release that job, then someone else can come in and do that work. And to, send love to your office, to send love to your works, to send love to your bosses or your coworkers or things like that. And instead of always affirming all the negative things that are happening, start to affirm all the things in the positive sense of like, I love my boss, I send them love, I hope they have a great day, things like that. And then in chapter 12, she talks about success. So, and that she even starts out, every experience is a success. And, that we can affirm our success and redefine what failure means to us. So that really we have opportunities, and they're just growing opportunities in our life, and we can learn from them. So now we'll get on to chapter 13. I'm going to go back to my written notes. Chapter 13 is all about prosperity and being receptive and joyful to all the good things that are coming into your life, and prosperity is feeling good about yourself first and foremost, and it's a state of mind. And you have to be willing to feel deserving of prosperity and to get it. And she also talks a lot about stepping out of the old. So like removing old things, replacing old things, getting rid of old things. And the more you do those types of things, the more that you're like getting rid of the old things, the more room you have for new things to come into your life. So also taking a look at your belief system, like were you told like money doesn't grow on trees and things like that, because those things are ingrained in your subconscious and can affect your reality. So then in chapter 14 and 15, this is all about the body, right? And like, this is the part that I use so often in my own work and with myself, is that like, it really breaks down how the body is tied to your emotions. And so, these chapters really can't be summarized. They have to be read. And you can look in chapter 16, chapter 15, all the different correlations. So if you have a headache, you can look up what that emotionally means. I broke my foot, and so I had to look and see what that meant. Like, oh, what does a broken foot mean? Okay, that's where the emotion was tied to that broken foot. It's really interesting stuff, and this is really powerful and very true. So I would highly recommend that you read chapters 14 and 15 yourself. And to get to, chapter 14 sets you up for what's in chapter 15. Chapter 15 is really looking at the problem, like whatever the symptom is, like headache, what that problem is, and then how to affirm and release that within your body. So I highly recommend that you read those chapters. And then in chapter 16, she talks all about her own personal story, which is really lovely, about how much she was able to overcome and to change the world. I even liked really the afterword in the book, and I highly recommend that you don't just close it at chapter 16 and be done with it, because she talks about her film, You Can Heal Your Life, which is something that I actually haven't seen, but it's on my list of things to watch, and how it brings a deeper message into consciousness. And then it talks about how she created Hay House afterwards, and then she gives, after that, holistic healing recommendations of self-help options to help you further. So that is my, I give this book obviously a 10 out of 10. This is one of the most classic, wonderful, best books ever. And I highly recommend it to everyone. So thank you for joining me for book club. I would love to hear what you thought of the book down below. So go ahead and leave that in the comments. And thank you for being here and watching.